Welcome to the PitchVision Academy Cricket Show. This is half an hour or so of your audio guide to better cricket, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach. We're just here to help you out for a little while. And who are we? Well, my name is David Hinchliffe. I look after things here. And helping me to help you is the head of cricket performance at Portsmouth Grammar School. It's Sam Lavery. Hello, Lavers. How's it going?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, David. Very well. How are you?
Very good. A little bit cold and wet here, but that's what you expect for this time of year. But luckily, we've got a roof over our nets, so it does not deter us from several sessions a week of lots of good cricket, including a good challenge for me, some beginners. We're doing some beginners this year, adult beginners, and they're getting stuck in and doing lots of crickety stuff, including a guy who's American and has only ever played baseball. And so watching him adapt his game from baseball to cricket is very interesting watching. But he's doing very well, actually.
Must be good fun as well. I haven't really got to work with many adult beginners over the years. A lot of the time it's either adults who've established themselves as a certain level of cricket or young guys coming through, which is where a lot of my work is at the moment. So having guys that are new to the game in their 20s and 30s and 40s, etc., must be a really challenging but enjoyable experience with guys who want to get better, want to learn, and they're starting from zero.
Do you know what's great about it is because if you're coming to anything later in life, you're doing it because you really want to give it a good go. You're not just sort of half-heartedly doing it, or you're not doing it because your parents have told you got to get out of the house. It's something that you're really going to throw yourself into, and so you get that. I think it's in many ways it's kind of the easiest way to coach because people are so receptive to ideas, and so sort of there's no preconceptions to it at all. They're coming in saying, right, listen, I want to give this cricket a go. I don't really know very much about it. Over to you. What do I need to do here? So it's great fun, and you see some people moving forward so quickly as well. It's a very positive thing. So I'm glad to be part of it, and hopefully we'll get increasing numbers as we go through the winter, and then we'll get a nice set of people who know how to get the ball down the other end and can play a straight drive and maybe hit a couple through mid-wicket as well if they're feeling saucy.
Well, let's see if you can get anyone near that first team or second team come the summer. There's a challenge for you.
I tell you what, this baseball guy, he's got the hand-eye coordination and the kind of natural ability catching and throwing that you would expect from someone who's played a bat and ball sport before. So he just has to adapt, really. So yeah, he could be one to watch. Got to work on the baseball cap. It's the wrong way around at the moment, but I said I'd give him a pass until it makes it into hardball cricket. So he said he'd be happy with that. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about other coaches in a way. And I think this year for me, I've been in a position where I've been able to sort of lead a team of other coaches, and I know that Lavers, you've done that as well. So the kind of thing that I'm looking for today is what you look for when you look for a coach. So if you're a head coach or a director of coaching or a head of cricket performance for that matter, and you've got a team and you're looking for people to join that team, whether it's full-time, whether it's part-time, whether it's voluntary, whatever it is, what kind of things do you look for in a coach? We've talked about it from a player point of view before, haven't we, in trials? But what kind of things do we look for in a coach? What impresses a head coach when you're trying to make it in the world of coaching?
Oh, it's an interesting stuff. It's actually something I've been doing a little bit of recently. We've been looking to recruit someone to add to our team to work with us throughout the winter, which we've just about tidied up now, which has been an interesting process, it is good to meet a load of people who are obviously involved in cricket in some capacity and speak to them about what their ideas are and give them a bit of a taste of what your feelings and thoughts are on the game and coaching and how you do things, and just compare and contrast between the two of you. But I guess it's not enormously different to how you would go about looking at players when you're selecting, and when you're selecting players you have certain criteria, and obviously there's going to be an element of skill in there, There might be an element of physicality in there as a player, but overriding there's often this element of kind of passion for the game, enthusiasm, and a will to improve, and a commitment to getting better. And I think for me that I generally would consider the current coaching knowledge and their ability to deliver, which is very, very important, and their ability to adjust to different personalities and those kind of things. But one thing that has to be there is that desire to improve yourself and a desire to improve those people around you, and also a kind of a willingness to accept that you're not always going to be right all the time, which some people struggle with. I've definitely struggled with in the past, but it's looking for that person who's got that drive and that will to be as good as they can be, and to really commit to the role, and that would be my starting point. And from there, you then hopefully will have a group of people that are still ticking those boxes, and then to some degree you've got to look at what kind of would fit into what skills or knowledge you already have as a group. So depending on what you have in your coaching setup and what gap that needs filling. So sometimes it might be that there's a specific skills coach that needs to come in. So it might be that you have a space for a bowling coach or a batting coach or a spin bowling coach, etc., etc. And obviously that's then going to have an influence on it. But definitely looking for some of that drive. I don't always feel like I need someone who's going to share my beliefs on the game and share my ideas, because often that's just bringing someone in who's going to regurgitate the same things as me all the time. So it's interesting to have someone who has their own point of view on things, and can be a little bit creative or approach things from a different angle to the way that I would or other coaches existing within the system might do. So yeah, there are a number of considerations there, but I guess it's going to be slightly different for everyone depending on their situation. But it's going to then be a combination of all the above. One of the other things I do consider is the kind of the longevity of the role and how long we need them for. And if it's someone to come in and cover something for quite short term, then you kind of want someone with that immediate knowledge and the ability to walk in and go, bang, I can help you, I can keep you at the level you are, I can maybe make you a little bit better, and I can do something beneficial to you straight away. Whereas if you're looking to someone who's going to be growing into a role and being with you for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, etc., then you can forego some of that immediate knowledge and immediate kind of finesse as a deliverer or a speaker or a coach or whatever it might be, and you can allow some room to grow into the role and learn along the way as well.
I think that's really important as well. There's a couple of other things I would add to that as well. One of them is, and this is a big one for me, is especially if you're talking about either longer term jobs or if you're talking about coaches who are working in a voluntary capacity, and that is how they fit in with the philosophy that you're trying to set up. Especially as a head coach, you're trying to have a consistent philosophy across the entire club. That's certainly what I try and do. And so in order to do that, there's certain things that people need to buy into, and those core things are really important when you're looking to get somebody in. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with everything that you say all the time, but a classic one is, especially if you're talking about coaches of younger players, does that coach look to, well, we just need to win every game, which success is measured by whether we win or lose, or are we looking to develop players? And if the answer is we're looking to develop players, like it is with me, and winning and losing is definitely secondary to that, it's part of the process of development, it's not an end outcome in itself, then you want to sort of get people in who are at very least conducive to that idea, and at the very least prepared to think about that idea, even if in the past they've thought about other ways of doing it. So that's one example, but really philosophy is a key one for me, and does their sort of personality and the way they think about cricket fit in with that general philosophy. And then the other thing I would say is, I mentioned it briefly, is that someone who is prepared to not only listen and learn, but also challenge you and challenge players, and not necessarily just do things by rote, paint by numbers and just say, yes, that sounds great to me, and then going off and doing whatever. You want people who are saying, why are we doing it like this? How can we do it better? And what is the ultimate aim here? And being confident to be able to challenge and be able to say, look, this is the way that I think it should be, and here's why. And that, to me, that's healthy and that's important. And it's not really a sign of negativity, which it often is when people challenge each other. It's a sign of healthy debate, and it's a sign of being able to think and do things in a way that doesn't just keep the ship sailing, but actually, tries to speed it up a little bit or make it go in a slightly different direction. And that's always fantastic to me, and I love it when people challenge me like that.
I guess we're kind of saying then that we need to have almost a list of all the things that we'd like to happen, and then we're going to kind of detail which things on this list are absolute non-negotiables, which things are essential to this person. And it might be that you've got 100, it might be that you've got one, and I'd suggest that most people, when it comes to absolute things that you can't budge on, there probably aren't going to be many of them, but the things that you do have on that list will be very important to you and very important to your belief as how you coach. And beyond that, you're going to kind of start thinking about where you prioritise other things. So some things will be way up top, even though you can maybe be slightly flexible on them, and other things will drift a little bit more. But certainly that need to have their own opinion and their own ideas and their own way of looking at things, and also their enough belief in themselves and confidence in themselves to raise them is really important. Because, as you said, David, you want that challenge from coach to player and vice versa, but you also need that within the environment of the coaching team, from coach to speak frankly with each other and challenge what people say. And some things have been done, and if people didn't do that in the coaching environment, we wouldn't do most of the things we talk about today on the show, especially on the technical side of things. A lot of them wouldn't have happened because we would have been living in the same with the same routines as were going on 30, 40, 50 years ago. A lot of them, which we know weren't as good as they can be, and now we've seen big improvements in all aspects of the game just through people challenging and voicing their opinions differently.
It's a tricky one, though, isn't it, that challenging? Because, first of all, how do you sort of show that you're capable of doing that if you are interviewing for a job, rather than, say, someone who knows you or whatever? And secondly, how do you judge what the other side is looking for? Because if someone doesn't like to be challenged, and there's plenty of people like that, and then you come across as a challenging personality, challenging in the way, not in the difficult, but in the I like to challenge and ask questions and push people, then that might get a negative response, and that might push you away from something. Rather, as a coach, it might push you away from something. But I guess if someone doesn't like being challenged, maybe that's not the job for you anyway, if you're that kind of person.
Yeah, I'm more thinking probably from my point of view, as the person recruiting, as it were. If I'm looking for someone who's going to challenge me and needs to stand up for themselves, then I would. Well, I've done this before. You'll drop in something into conversation which is clearly not true, and see if someone will then oppose it and stand up to it. So,
right.
And you can make up whatever you want. Obviously, you can just say, well, obviously, I don't agree with left-handed batters because we can't have any of them, and see if someone's willing to stand up for them, or as ridiculous as you want, or whether you want to go for. But I mean, you could go with something like technical, and obviously in this. Then we talk about things like movement types and things like that. So it might be something that you insist that everyone moves to the ball head first, and that's the only way to do it, or you insist that to bowl an outswinger you have to hold the ball like this, or something where there is definitely a bit of room for negotiation to see if they will stand up for that, or see if they will just go along with your quite clearly not necessarily accurate belief that you're kind of voicing there. And that's a good little challenge for people to see if they do it. And it's something that I've done with players quite a lot over the years, is just kind of challenge them, especially tactically. You can sort of say, well, this is the only way to do this, and see if they're willing to say, actually, well, I've got another way. I've done that differently before. I've approached things like this, and it's a good way to see if you've got someone who's confident enough in their own beliefs and their own ideas to speak back and voice their opinion, and also interesting to see how they do it.
Let's answer some questions. Speaking about questioning and challenging, let's answer some questions that have been sent in by listeners to the show or readers to the PitchVision website over at pitchvision.com. And then at the end of the show, we'll pick a winner, which wins an online coaching course from PitchVision Academy at pitchvision.com. I'm very sorry. I'm going to probably ruin this person's name because I don't know how to pronounce it. But I think it's Tejbeer has written in, and Tejbeer says, "Hello, I want advice on bracing my front leg. I've been working on it for about a month now, but I'm not able to achieve it. No matter how hard I try, my leg just flexes. What would you suggest to change this to a complete front braced leg?" He's talking about fast bowling, by the way. "Do you think I should completely focus on my base and do drills, as it's very hard to change the base? Any advice would be appreciated." What do we think, Lavers? Yep.
Well, first of all, it is difficult, so don't be surprised that you haven't cracked it within 4 weeks, because I know people who have been bowling for 10, 15 years, and it's been one of those things that they've always had in the back of their head that has annoyed them, that they've wanted to improve the way their front leg braces or locks when it lands, and they're still not happy with what they're getting. So don't be surprised that it's not going to happen overnight, but obviously you're keen on it, you're sticking with it, and that's good to see that you're looking to improve performance, so we're in a good starting position. From then we've got to look at how we're going to go from a braced front leg to, well, how we're going to actually achieve it within a full bowling action. So first of all, how are you setting up your process? So are you starting from trying to do it from a stationary position, and how does it feel? Are you able to lock that leg or brace it from a stationary position? And then you can go through the usual reverse chaining, and that's usually where you find that tipping point of where you're not able to do it. So often that comes with the momentum coming in and people introducing the jump, and that's when people start to lose some flexion. So to create some flexion. So why is that knee bending? That's the next thing to look at. So it could be due to the pattern in which you're landing with your foot. Or it could be to do with the trajectory of your foot as it lands. So if you think about some people, and I have a very old memory of something in my mind which is probably not very current, and people won't be able to picture it at all, but I think about a picture that I used to see at Headingley all the time, which was of Chris Silverwood bowling, and he used to have his front leg up pretty high and then it would slam down, but as a result of this, his front leg would almost be coming backwards towards its landing point, and as a result it would almost try and flex the other way, so it would lock really straight. Whereas there are other people who are very flat in their trajectory in of their jump, and they're also very flat in the way that they extend their front leg towards front foot contact. So the leg is actually moving forwards very quickly, in which case it's going to buckle in that way, and the knee's going to bend a little bit more. So sometimes, however much strength work you put through that knee, and however much you try to repeat or reverse chain from stationary back to the full run up, there are going to be technical areas that are going to make a difference. So generally, if you find yourself landing toe first, you're probably going to find that a little bit trickier. I found in my experience, if you're landing towards the front of the foot, and also generally if your leg is moving forwards, as I tried to describe then, so you're flat with that front foot as it comes into contact. Sorry, flat's not the wrong word, because we're going to perceive that differently. If we're not getting much leg extension, so a leg isn't coming downwards into the ground, then we'll often find that creates flexion as well. So there are a few different angles you need to be considering here. So we've got that technical point of view. So what is the path of that leg and that foot into landing? The process point of view. So are you trying to do it from a stationary point of view and then working backwards? And then we've also got that strength and physical point of view. as in, are we strengthening that leg? Are we making sure that that is improving its ability to resist the forces that are going through it and trying to make it bend in the first place? So there'd be the three main angles that I'd be looking at, and from there I'd be working out which one is possibly the deficiency and which one's the issue. You will know how physically strong you are. You'll know how much single leg work you do and how well you switch on those muscles in the legs through the work you've done. You'll also have a good understanding of how you've started this process. It could be that you've just started by running and you're trying to do it and you're really trying to keep that leg straight, but actually all you're doing is sprinting in at full pace, trying to keep your legs straight and realising it's not working, and you're probably going to be banging your head against a brick wall if you're taking that view all the time. So they're the kind of angles I'll be looking at, but I'd also be interested to see what you throw in, Dave, because this is something that people really struggle with, and it's something that there probably isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for this one.
There definitely isn't. I think, well, the sort of meta point, if you like, is, do you need a braced front leg? It is something which is one of the key indicators of speed in a fast bowler. And if you've got a braced front leg, not a locked front leg, bit of a difference, a braced front leg, you don't want to hyperextend the knee, bend it too far over, but it is one of the indicators. But do you need it? Some people bowl pretty quick without needing it. Some people bowl pretty well without needing it. Even at the highest level, international, first class, top level players, you see that knee break sometimes, in a break as in bend rather than physical injury. So it might be that you're the type of person who it doesn't suit very well, and you're sort of trying to force it, square peg round hole, all that kind of thing. So you need to work out whether that's something worth persevering with or not. But if you think that, actually, this is one of the ways that I generate pace, and that's, I want to keep going along that road, then it does get it does get tricky. And you've seen a lot of work with Stephen Jones around this area and around this technical stuff, and he combines a lot of sort of strength conditioning style work around technical work, especially with the lower half. So he does a lot of stuff with medicine balls. He does a lot of stuff with isometrics, which is just, but it's holding the position that you want to be in. And it's kind of like that sort of one end of actual coaching there, because you're trying to get someone into a specific position. But then maybe you do something slightly different with the top half once you've locked in the bottom half into where you want it to be. And then maybe you bring in little bits, like the driving of the hip or that kind of thing, but heavy balls or that kind of thing, which is a bit more along the strength and conditioning line of things, but still there's a lot of technical stuff in there. So it'd be interesting to have a look at holding the position, using isometrics to hold the position, and maybe throwing a medicine ball against the wall. See how that goes. See if you can keep that position held even when you're generating power with your top half, and then maybe try and do it with the bent knee as well, with the thing that won't go away, and see if that gives you roughly the same amount of power generating, because that might give you a clue back to that other point, which is, some people get more pace from other parts of the action than they do from the legs, although the legs are important. So I'd look at that. I'd look at isometrics, and I'd look at kind of heavy, let's call it heavy implement work, so medicine balls, heavy balls, that kind of thing, and trying to lock that position in a more sort of strength conditioning style environment rather than in a pure technical environment.
I think that bit, David, is really important, because no matter how much time you spend in the nets or you spend bowling, the work you do with a medicine ball is there to recreate the patterns and the movements that you're going to have when you're bowling. And if your focus while you're bowling is really on locking that leg and getting it braced, yet the time you're away from the nets and you're with that medicine ball and you're slamming it, throwing it, pushing it, whatever it might be, depending on your activity, you're not putting in the same focus into locking that leg, then you're retraining those bad habits that you've previously had, and as a result you're going to slow up what you're going to achieve in the nets. So any movements that are relating to bowling, and they could be gym movements or they can be net movements, it doesn't really matter, they're all going to have an impact. So you've got to make sure that you're really focusing on having an awareness of what that leg's doing each and every time, because each throw has value and has an impact on the next throw you're going to make.
Next question is from Cameron, and Cameron has got a batting question. He says, when is a batsman's bat speed supposed to be higher? When batting against a spinner or a fast bowler?
Good question, isn't it? I guess it depends what we're trying to achieve and what our outcome is. So if we're looking to try and hit a ball for 6, if we consider the basic kind of physics of it, you can look at it from 2 angles. With a fast bowler, there's a necessity for the bat to move faster to get to the ball because the reaction time is less. So there's obviously a requirement for a bit more bat speed there. However, if we're looking to hit a ball to a boundary, there's probably going to be a greater requirement for bat speed against a slower bowler because there's less speed coming onto the ball, and so we need to generate more with the bat. So I guess it depends on which angle you're looking at. If we're looking to hit a ball for 6, we're going to have quite a bit of back speed with a spinner to try and make sure that we've got sufficient distance on the ball to be hitting it. So I'd definitely be going along those lines. With a fast bowler, you're going to have some bat speed there anyway because of your reaction to the ball. So which one's going to be actually going to be higher, I'm not sure, but I guess our intent to move the bat faster is probably going to be more relevant when we're playing against a spinner.
Yeah, this is one of those questions where it's interesting sort of to talk theoretically, but it always reminds me of what is probably an apocryphal story of the Rolls-Royce, the catalogue for Rolls-Royce cars, which under the technical specifications, under the horsepower, it says sufficient. Because if you're buying a Rolls-Royce, it doesn't really matter what the horsepower is, does it? So, and it's sort of a little bit like that, I think, in that what bat speed do you need if you want to hit a spinner for a 6, or if you want to hit, he hasn't said hit for a 6, but if you want to hit the ball powerfully, if you need a bat speed. So what bat speed do you need to hit the spinner for 6? What bat speed do you need to hit the seamer for 6? You need sufficient bat speed to be able to clear the rope. And it doesn't really matter. Like, I suppose, we go back to your point about intentions and saying, well, what's the intention here? And it might feel like you having to try and hit the ball with more bat speed when you've got a spinner, because there's less pace on the ball to start with, so you've got less to work with. There's too many factors, too many variables, and it all happens too quickly for things to really sort of fit in with what you're trying to do when you're actually doing it. Because if you're worrying about the speed of your bat when you're playing in nets, you're not really worried about scoring runs, which is the point. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, look, I want to work on my hitting the spinner over the top for 6, great, that's a great specific aim to work for, but don't really worry about what your bat speed is. Worry about how hard is the ball coming off the bat. With the ball exit speed, we've talked about that before, haven't we? And how far is the ball coming off the bat. And if you can see it, even better, if you can do some range hitting, if you can see it, you can see whether the ball has cleared the rope or not, and you can say to yourself, okay, well, that's hard enough. That is sufficient bat speed. I'm gonna continue with that because now I know. And it's all about feel, really. It's all about feel and timing and the specifics of which one is faster or something. It's an interesting theoretical question, but it's a bit of a, how many angels can you fit on the head of a pin question, I think.
Yeah, theoretically it poses a good question, but in reality, there's not really a big requirement for it. It's a bit like saying, when do you need to swing the bat harder? If I'm playing a straight drive for 4 against an opening bowler, or if I'm digging down on a Yorker, I'm probably actually going to have faster bat speed digging down on a Yorker and panicking and trying to throw my hands down as far, but the ball's not going to go anywhere as far, is it? But equally, it doesn't matter. What I want to have is the power to create a high level of bat speed for when I need it, and then I will play the shots appropriately as I go along. So theoretically, interesting question, and one that does create some good talking points, but in reality, I guess we'd be thinking develop as much speed, back power as you can. There's loads of work out there, loads of information that you can't go on YouTube or Facebook or anything like that without seeing Julian Wood popping up, swinging his bat, talking about bat speed, exit speed off the bat, and all that kind of thing. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about it, Woody's got loads of literature out there, loads of videos online of him working with different sides, different individuals. And if it's something you want to add to your game, watch a few of those. There's some really simple techniques to increasing back speed. We've been doing it for about 3 or 4 years, and it's been a bit of a trial, and it's been a bit of a mixed approach, if I'm honest. So we haven't necessarily got a set formula for this is the best way to improve bat speed and power. However, we've got a plan that is definitely going to improve power for people along the way. I still think that it could be fine-tuned a hell of a lot more, and I'm sure Woody, as an out-and-out specialist in that power hitting area, probably is fine-tuning it more and more every day. But hitting weighted balls, using a bat weight, going from overload to underload with the weight of your bat, those kind of things, they're just basically simple power development techniques that are taken over from any other element of sport. If you're trying to improve power, you can add a bit of weight, you can take a bit of weight off. You're looking to try and maintain bat speed with the addition of weight, and then you're looking to take that weight away and go a little bit lighter, and then try and improve the bat speed. So very, very simple concepts, and also adding in that weighted ball is another really good way to improve that power through the entire shot and increase that range of acceleration, so we're not just slowing down into contact, really accelerating through contact. But yeah, get online, have a look at what Woody's talking about. He's got loads of stuff out there, so I'm sure you'll be able to find something that's going to help you once you've made your own mind up about whether you need it for a spinner or a fast bowler.
And that is just about all we've got time for on the show this week. We are going to wrap up in a moment, but before we do that, we just need to do a quick decision on this week's winner. So I think, Lavers, you're going to be in the chair this week with Gareth being away. And we need to decide who wins the prize, the online coaching course from PitchVision Academy at pitchvision.com. And we had Tedgebeer's question, I'm going to say, hopefully I got that right, about the brace front leg, and Cameron's question about bat speed, spinners versus fast bowlers. So which one did you prefer, Lavis?
Well, both questions have actually raised some really good talking points and have provided some good discussion, so both very, very well done. However, I am going to go for Tedgebeer this time, simply because the information and the things we've talked about, I think, are not only going to help him, but also going to be relevant to lots of people out there who are going to be thinking of the same thing. I want to improve pace, I want to get that front leg braced as I'm landing. So Tedgebeer, you're going to get the prize this week, simply for its relevance to a big population of people who will be interested to hear what we say.
Yeah, and as always, if there's any feedback, comments, thoughts, ideas, disagreements, challenges we've talked about, then get in touch with us. You don't have to send in questions. You can just talk about the things that we talked about. We're always looking for feedback on these things. But speaking of sending in a question, Lavers, if someone wanted to get in touch with us, send in a question and have the chance to win the prize, what would the email address be to get through to the show?
They can get through to us on coach@pitchvision.com.
That's right. There's lots of other ways as well. You can message us through pitchvision.com. There's a social media page there, lots of different pages. We're PitchVision Academy. That's our account there. So you can send us a message through the system there, or you can do it through Facebook. Facebook.com/PitchVision Academy is where you can send your questions to. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. Our Twitter is @PitchVision Acad. If you want to listen to the show every week, you can do that too. That's pretty straightforward. You go to your favourite podcast app, do a search for PitchVision Academy. You'll find us in there. Tap on subscribe and away you go. If you want to get old show notes or old shows, you want to download the file straight to your computer, as well as see daily cricket coaching articles, then head over to pitchvision.com/academy. And for the podcasts, click on the podcast link. And that's all there is to it. That's all for this week. We hope you listen next week. But until then, have a good week. Cheers, Lavers.
Thanks, David.